Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today on the show, we have Kelsey Black, owner of the Book Burrow Bookstore. We're going to be talking all about her business, her journey to ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek to what it's really like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop episodes like this one. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining me today on the show. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and a little bit about your business.
Okay, yeah, of course. So background, my name's Kelsey. I started this business March 2021, so about 3 years ago. And I started this bookstore in my garage. I have no background in book selling or bookstore ownership or entrepreneurship in general. Like I don't have any experience. And I just kind of in the early part of 2021, right after the pandemic, I was like, okay, the pandemic kind of really took it out of us. And like, I'm just trying to find, my direction in life. And the universe had some very crazy plans for me. So like I had this vague idea that I was going to start a bookstore maybe in 2 years kind of idea. And then February 2021 came around and I was actually let go from my job at Google at the time. So I was like, oh, universe, thank you so much for this. My timeline went from 2 years to 2 months because when I was let go from Google, they were like, yeah, you have 2 months left with us. And I was like, great. Okay, this is
Wow.
beautiful. So I started my bookstore out of my garage. And for about 18 months, I was doing everything out of my house. And then I was doing pop-up events around Pflugerville. And then I built my way from out of my garage and doing pop-up events to the, I'm sorry. I just choked on my own self. I'm sorry.
You're totally good. No worries.
I built my way from pop-up events to be able to sustain a brick and mortar. So in August 2022, we were able to open our first brick and mortar space in the back break room of another business. We ended up moving 8 months later when that business went out of business. And so we ended up moving in with our friends at the Three-Legged Goat, which is a wine bar in downtown Pflugerville. And of course, books and wine pair perfectly together. After about 4.5 months there, our friends at the Three-Legged Goat let us know that they were having to do some reconstruction and some renovating. So we had to find our own place in less than 30 days. So as of August 2023, we have our own space that's just ours. We are the only person on the lease. We have about 775 square feet, which is less than my garage, but it's okay because this space is open to the public and it's not just book storage. It's an actual place where people can come and hang out, and it's a third place.
Oh, wow. That sounds super cool. I can't wait to check that out. I love cozy little book nook places. That's
Oh,
really
it's
fun.
so much fun. Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like a journey. So I'd love to like get to know you a little bit and tell us a little bit about the role that you currently play in the business.
So I am the sole owner. My husband does consider himself a silent owner, but he also has a day job, and he basically just what that means is he gives us some financial, like cash flow if we need it. But he doesn't really have a hand in the day-to-day operations. He's just there in case of emergencies. So I'm the sole owner. I do 98% of all the work when it comes to ownership,
Mhm.
and I do all the day-to-day activities. I have a staff of about 6 people, 7 people that work underneath me. That includes customer facing and back end people. So yeah, yes.
Well, that's really cool. You're wearing a lot of hats in business, it sounds like.
Oh yeah.
And I'd love to hear kind of like how you break those hours up, like with your strategy. Like how long are you working like in the job, like on the floor doing the actual in the store stuff as well as like on the business when you're doing your
Mhm.
strategy and planning?
So I try to work about 35 hours a week. I know that sounds like really, really low, but I have to have a work-life balance because I do have a family. So I need to like take a step back from my business and help and do my household. So I do have an amazing team. I work about 4 days a week, and we have it as a company policy that nobody works more than 4 days a week. And if for some reason you work 5 days a week, then we make sure that the next week you work 3 days a week. So we try to be a 4 day work week company because working full time, working 40 hours is just, it's hard. And when you're trying to keep house and you're trying to, live on your own, working 40 hours is, you can't keep up. So I try to
Mm.
make sure all of my employees work maximum 35 hours a week. And
Oh,
so
I
that's
like
my
that. Yeah.
strategy is just, hey, work-life balance is a thing. Please don't work on work unless you're at work.
That is a really cool thing. And I've noticed like a trend going that way with businesses. When did you incorporate that, or has that always been part of your business structure?
So I was the only person that did this, that was a part of the company at the very beginning. So for about 2 years of this, it was probably a year and a half, I was pretty much the only one that was working. So I tried, because I was the only one doing all the tasks and wearing all the hats, and I just kind of made it I I made it a priority to take care of myself and take care of my household, because I knew as a business owner, I couldn't do the businessy thing and entrepreneurial thing if I didn't take care of myself. And taking care of myself requires a lot of extra not work related hours. So when I started hiring people, I just made sure that like I knew that I struggled with a full-time job. So like I made sure that, the max I worked was 35 hours, and I'm not going to ask my employees to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So
Yeah,
yes.
that's really cool. That sounds like, that kind of leads me into my next question. Like as a leader, as the owner, how do you feel your like what's your leadership style?
I would like to say that I am a servant leader, but I don't know if that's actually 100% accurate. I know that if I am doing something, or I ask my minions to do something, I'm not going to ask them to do something that I wouldn't do myself, or I don't know how to do myself. And so there are tasks that it's not my strength to do, but some of my staff, it is their strength to do. It is their strength to, like making lists and detail oriented. And that's not necessarily my strength. So it's not that I'm passing it on to somebody else, but, utilizing and recognizing my team members' strengths and weaknesses and how it can be utilized for the best of the team.
Yeah, you're like highlighting their qualities and their
Highlighting their
oh, yeah.
qualities. And if somebody's struggling with something, I want to figure out why. And if it, figure out why they're struggling, because if they're struggling for a reason. So I want to figure out why they're struggling and give them the resources they need to be able to like do their job. And if they need more help, I would like to step in and provide what they need.
Oh,
Well,
that's
within reason.
totally. That's really cool. And do you kind of see within your staff right now, do you see them like rising up as leaders in the company and like see them growing, and like what are some ways that you see them like rising up?
Oh, absolutely. Like all of my staff members has been tremendous. So I've never done this before. I've never done an entrepreneur thing. I've never been a leader. I've never even been a manager before this. So it's really just jumping in the deep end and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But also, in the process of doing that and seeing my personal growth as a leader, I have been able to look back and be introspective of like where my staff was a year ago, as well as myself. And oh, there are so many ways that my staff has just blown me away. I would like to talk about one of my minions, Alexander. So Alexander is an introvert and he doesn't like to talk to people, which is fine. Like I get it because people kind of suck. But about 6 months ago, he was like, I want to start talking to people. And I was like, I don't know how to describe how to talk to people and like when's appropriate and when's not. So he was like watching us and watching us and watching us. And it was so awesome. This past year, we were in a Christmas parade, as Pflugerville Christmas parade, Pflugerville community. Well, Alexander, my tiny little minion, who is a very, very, very introverted person, started yelling at strangers. And so that's the whole inside joke is Alexander now yells at strangers. But Alexander was absolutely broke out of that introverted shell. And during the Christmas parade, was yelling about not really yelling, but like, telling people and talking to strangers and, breaking out of the introverted shell. And I'm just so impressed with Alexander and so impressed that Alexander, first of all, found a job where he can be himself. And I am just so thrilled that he found himself and his groove on my team. I just think that's the coolest thing.
That is so cool. What a
I
fun
know.
story. Like
I
to
love
see
my
them grow.
minions. That's just a story of dozens upon dozens of different examples from all of my employees.
Very cool. Well, I'd love to talk a little bit about your business and,
Yeah.
what makes it special? Like, who primarily do you serve? And like, say I was in your audience, how would I know I'd be a good fit for your products and services?
Anyone who loves books is somebody who I serve. So if you find yourself a reader, even if you don't live in the Austin area, but specifically Austin area readers, we are a bookstore, and bookstores are wonderful, and they're places you can buy books. And so if you're sitting here wondering, thinking, am I one of your, should I, support your business? The answer is, if you love books, the answer is yes. If you don't love books, the answer is yes. Because supporting small business, specifically small local bookstores, a small bookstore, like a local indie bookstore, really shows the community that it is in. And bookstores in and of themselves service communities around them. So even if you love books or don't love books, supporting a local indie bookstore will help the local economy so much.
Hmm.
So,
Oh
so
yeah.
much.
That's very, very true, and just like hearing your story and hearing what you're bringing to the community is incredible. And I'd love to share, what is one thing you wish people knew more about your business?
I think the biggest thing that I see every day is people will come in and be like, "Oh my God, you own a bookstore. That's my dream job, is to be able to own a bookstore." And yes, I want everyone to own a bookstore. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it is my favorite thing that I've ever done. However, this is not a bad thing. But when I got into this, I was like, "Oh yes, my dream of owning a bookstore." And it was not quite what I expected. Not in a bad way, just not quite what I expected. I can tell you, as someone who has dreamed about owning a bookstore my entire life, my dream job is not owning a bookstore. Like, as someone who owns a bookstore, my dream job is not owning a bookstore. My dream job is book selling. Like,
Mm.
my book selling is my forever career. I love being able to get books into the hands of people and seeing the light in their eyes when they find that perfect story, and just making the whole experience of being in a bookstore and surrounded by books and making it feel magical. That's my favorite job. And as someone who owns a bookstore, my favorite job is not owning a bookstore, but it is the book selling that goes along with it. And I wish that anytime that somebody comes in and says, "Oh, I wish I could be a bookstore owner," it's not what you would expect. It's just not. There's a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of decision making, and there's a lot of things I did not expect. But the best thing about my job is being able to give books to my community, really.
Mm. I love that. That's such a fun, and I like how wholesome it is too. It's like reading is one of those things we've
Mhm.
done forever, and like sharing stories is something that is so powerful. So I'd like
Oh,
to talk a
absolutely.
little bit, kind of goes right into marketing, which is something all businesses are trying to work on. And it's vital to business success, especially like when you want to, put the word out about something cool that you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, what are some of the ways you are doing marketing for your business, and what's been working for you?
Our biggest marketing strategy that we do is social media, and I know everybody says social media. Our we do things a little bit differently. I mean, not too differently, but enough. Our strategy is just kind of being cheeky and irreverent about everything on our social media. So we have some bookstore cats, and we've, given them personalities on the social media, and we do a lot of things that you would not expect. And that, I think, is what makes our social media and our marketing strategy so, I'm not gonna say powerful. Comical would be the correct word. But it's just it's chaos is what it is. It is chaos, and it's just chaos concentrated, and it's amazing. I don't really run ads. I don't really do anything because books sell themselves. And so all I have to do is just sit here and have a bookstore. So social media is just cheeky, and everybody loves cheeky. And also, people don't like it when you film yourself destroying books. And that tends to get us a lot more likes. So I'm so sorry for those who watch your social media and watch me rip up books. I love it, but I know you. To be fair, all the books we destroy on camera to get that reaction, all of those books have been, like, they were destroyed before we started doing that. I'm not going to be destroying perfectly good books. But when you see a 10-second video of me just ripping pages out of a book, it looks terrible. It looks terrible, and it's fun.
I really dig your strategy. This is like it sounds like super engaging and fun.
Oh
And
yeah. And all
um
of our followers are like, "Gasp, how dare." And it's like, well, okay, so they were destroyed beforehand, like whether a dog started chewing on them or like water damage or just whatever reason, we just didn't feel comfortable selling them. So we're like, what are we going to do with them? Let's make art. And then we start ripping them up for social media. So
I dig it. Well, this has been so fun talking about like some of your marketing strategies. I'd like to dive into you and your journey a bit more and what sparked you, why you chose to go into business for yourself as opposed to like working for another company. What was that? And what was that transition like? You know, you had mentioned you were in a previous job. What was that like for you, like going into business on your own?
the transition, the transition was really hard because I've never found it easy to work for myself because myself doesn't want to work. Myself, I'm lazy at heart and I would much rather binge watch Netflix than do anything. And getting from that, being told what to do from 9 to 5 every day, which is super, it's stable and it is definitely one of those careers that like if you just don't want to think about your work and you want to work for somebody else and just get your work done and get paycheck, beautiful. I unfortunately was told by the universe that that was not for me. So I just kind of fell into it. And honestly, I wouldn't go back. I don't ever want to work for the man again.
Mm,
I'll work for me, the woman.
yes.
Mm.
I like the sass.
Snap, snap,
You
snap.
and I are going to get along great. So as you look back on your journey so far, what's been like a memorable roadblock or hurdle that you faced in business that you overcame?
Oh, for sure, mental health. Um, the first like 6 months, 6 months to a year, I would say, of the Book Burrow, doing pop-up events and not really having a lot of income at the time because I was only doing income maybe 3 or 4 times a week, if that. It was really hard on my mental health because like I was here and the universe was like, hey, I'm putting you in a hard position kind of thing. But at the time it was really rough on my emotional and mental health.
Mhm.
But once I was able to get that support system in place, and once I was able to get the proper mental health things that just medication basically, I was on it. I got on antidepressants is what happened, and I got that phenomenal support system that I now have. It really changed everything because when your mental health suffers, everything suffers. And once I was able to get that stable, I was able to then grow myself as a person and grow my business. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that is really powerful. That's really insightful too, that you took that initiative to like get what you needed to sustain and grow,
mhm.
both personally and professionally.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, like everybody asks me how I do it. And I'm like, a lot of antidepressants. And that's kind of the joke, but it's really not because like antidepressants, I'm no longer on those antidepressants. I'm on anti-anxiety because let's be honest, this world sucks, but it's okay. Where but mental health, and that's acknowledging that like, hey, I do need anti-anxieties to get out of bed in the morning. That is 100% healthy and it is okay. So if anybody's struggling with mental health, get that support system. Taking that first step is going to be the hardest part, but once you take that first step, it's the journey. Taking the
Amen. That
first
is
step is
so
the hardest
true.
part of any journey.
That is so true. And,
Mhm.
kind of like talking about, where you're at with you've overcome some things, you're growing. What's next? What do you have planned for your bookstore in the next 3 to 5 years?
It just depends on what the universe throws at us. I'm gonna be completely totally honest. It's what the universe throws at us. I have a lot of plans for what I want to do, and right now we have 775 square feet, and it's tiny. And we are already outgrowing our space. We've been here about 8, 9 months, and we're already outgrowing our space. And our lease is up in July, but we have no place to go. So we're going to stay here and continue to outgrow our tiny little space. But I'm hoping that once we fully outgrow the space and we just have no more room to move around in the store, then the universe will provide something that we need. I don't have a plan. All I know is I'm going to prepare for us to have a bigger space, and that's all I can do right now.
Yeah, that's like a really good kind of like how you're setting goals. And I'd like to dive in. How do you set, like, what's your approach to the goal setting and how many goals do you have at a time when it comes to your business?
It really just depends on what's going on at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every there are so many different things that get a bookstore running and that just people who come into a bookstore to shop have no idea. Like we have a book buyer, we have somebody who goes in and rates the advanced readers copies that publishers send us, and there's just so much behind the scenes work that no one person can possibly do all that work. I know, I've tried. I
Yeah.
tried for 2 years and it failed successfully, I guess. And now I have a whole team of people. But um, I guess that's my strategy is delegating to other people because there's no way I could possibly do everything all at once to get everything to
Oh,
successfully run.
definitely. Delegation is key. And
Mhm.
we have covered like so many great topics on this conversation. I've loved talking to you, and I'd like to dive into our rapid fire questions if you're ready for those.
Rapid fire, let's go.
I have a feeling one of these questions, I'm just going to say it's question three. Take your time on it because I feel like this question was like meant for you.
Okay.
Keeping that in mind, the first question is, what is a key to success for you?
Having a big support system, a good support system for you, having a stable support system
Mm,
is absolute. Like I would not be where I am today without the support system that I have and the team that's I find at the Book Burrow. Like I would not be here today without them. So I'm the one that's sitting here looking successful, and it's really not me. It's a lot of people holding me up behind the scenes, and it's just so hard to be like, oh yes, and I'm going to name these 13 people. But just know there is a massive support system holding me up and making me look successful.
definitely love that. And what is number two is what is one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
I had this, I saw your questions before this, and I was like, oh no, I know the answer to this, and now I'm like, I don't know. There's so many things that I could tell business owners. I think at the very end of the day, it is self-care. Take care of yourself, because if you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot take care of your business.
Mm, that's a good
That's at
one
the
too.
very end of the day. Yeah. Mhm.
100%. So here's that question number three. What is one book you are reading right now or have read most recently that's impacted you?
Oh, so many books. Oh, so many books
I
because
had a
oh, that's
feeling.
my job. Oh, that is my job. The current one I'm reading right now. And I just okay. So the book I'm reading right now is Rival Most Vile, and it's this cozy fantasy, and it's about lovers. It's a enemies to lovers kind of story. They're rival potion makers in this cozy fantasy world, and then they become lovers. And I'm not to the point yet where they're becoming lovers, but I know it's coming. Um, so it's not about the book, it's about the author. So let me tell you about the author, R.K. Ashwick. So Rival Most Vile by R.K. Ashwick should be on everyone's TBR. It's this cozy little queer fantasy. If you've read Legends and Lattes or Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, you are going to love R.K. Ashwick's books. She has like 4 books out now, and I can't even name all of them because they're all so amazing. The one I'm reading right now, though, is Rival Most Vile. Anyway, R.K. Ashwick is phenomenal. Phenomenal. She is an author in California, and she's indie published. So the great thing about indie published books, we actually specialize in indie published books. Because traditionally published books, the industry is so weird. So you have indie published books and you have indie published books and you have traditionally published books. And we have a good combination of both. But our indie authors, when we were in the process of moving our stores multiple times in a year, I might add, all of our local indie authors were the first to volunteer to help us move. And if you've ever moved before, I'm sure anybody's moved. Just think about that moving process and just understand every bad thing about moving is moving a bookstore. All of the books. The only thing we move are books, and those are heavy. So we moved our bookstore 3 times in a year, and our indie authors came out to help us, and they were the first to volunteer. And so it was just, we went viral, and our behind the scenes support system was our indie authors like R.K. Ashwick. Anyway, I know that question did not go where you wanted it to go, but for sure, R.K. Ashwick, Rival Most Vile, and basically any book on our shelves at any given time is amazing.
I was like waiting this whole interview to ask you this question just because I knew you would have the coolest answer.
Oh, and I have so many other books. That's just the one I'm reading right now.
That is awesome. So the last question is if you had to choose only one area of your business to immediately improve tomorrow, what would it be?
Oh, cash flow for sure.
Hmm.
Um, a little thing. people don't know, and I should have probably done this in the other question about like what don't people know about your industry. People don't get into book selling to make money. A good profitable bookstore only makes about 1% profit margin. And so I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this for the love of books, literally.
Yeah.
So if I can magically change something tomorrow, it would be that cash flow. Our books, when we get them in, the publisher sets the price. So we can't up the price at any point in time. So it's just the way that books are, we just don't make that much money. So just the way the industry is and the way that it is, unfortunately, it's cash flow. But that's everybody, right? But yeah, that's something I would magically fix tomorrow would be cash flow, because it's not my issue.
Oh, well, this was a great conversation, and I'm so excited to get people plugged in to your business. Would love for you to share. How can people get in touch with you? Share your contacts, social medias, anything.
Okay, so the Book Burrow TX is on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of the social medias. You'll know it's us because our logo is a hobbit hole made out of books, and it says the Book Burrow on the door.
That is cute. I saw your
so
logo.
adorable.
So cute.
You can also email us at info@thebookburrowbookstore.com for anything. There are so many different ways you can support us from afar as well. Bookshop.org/shop/the Book Burrow TX. It's the way you can support us online. Bookshop.org is a nonprofit organization that hosts my website and does the logistics behind sending e-commerce stuff. So even though I may not have a book in store, you'll still get a book delivered directly to your door, and I get the profits. So we also do audiobooks. There's so many different ways you can support the Book Burrow from afar. And also we have this phenomenal merch. If you see this,
cute.
it says the Book Burrow, and then embrace your weird, and then it's our little logo. Where's my logo? There it is. On the Pflugerville water tower, which is like a big community staple. But yeah, we have merch. We have so many different things. Follow us on social media, because that is the best way. If you don't have money and you cannot buy anything from us, follow us on social media, like, share, follow. That is the best way to support your local small businesses, is to just like them on social media. It helps so much more than you can think.
That is very true. Well, Kelsey, this has been so much fun. I have one final question for you today. What is most inspiring to you today?
What's most inspiring to me? Probably my team. Because I've seen them grow the last however long they've worked for me. From my assistant to my general manager to Alexander, who I mentioned earlier in this interview, and all of my other staff members. They just amaze me every day that I'm here, and I'm just so blown away that this is my life. And I am so blown away that my team has found their way into my life, and they're growing so much professionally and personally that I can't even quantify it. It is just so amazing and so terrific, and I am blown away by my staff. And just blown away by the universe and how it has just provided for us. I was like, oh, I'm going to start a bookstore in 2 years. And the universe said, nah, 2 months, go.
Well, you have been such a joy and fun interview, Kelsey. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Of course. I love doing this. So I'm just glad that we got to do this today.